Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is the place where you learn new skill every time you visit. So keep updating yourself by subscribing to the channel.
Everyone. So today we'll discuss the concept of objects, why we need objects, all right? What's the use of the objects in class and object concept? So here I have already defined a class marks, which has a variable name and percentage marks, and then the total marks and average marks are to be calculated for the number of students. So there's an input function already defined. Here's the scanner object is created, the name is being asked, and the percentage marks is being asked in the input. Down below is a process function where it calculates the total marks, right? So average marks will calculate after this. Total marks is calculated by adding the percentage marks to the existing total marks, and then the display function is doing the printing the details of the names and the marks. Then we have the main function, and where we are calling the input, process and output. Now this time we are calling it 2 times, right? 2 times input, 2 times process and 2 times display, because we want to take the details of 2 students, right? Let's compile this and see what output it gives. So once we compile this, and it compiles without error, and then we go to the main screen of the BlueJ and then try to run this. So here we go. So it asks you the name. I gave a random percentage, another name, and another percentage I gave. Now you observe, I have given the 2 names Raman and 56 rather than 43, but it is printing only the details of the last person, and although the total is also being wrong. Now the reason is for printing, not printing the first student's detail is, and printing the wrong total, let me print the percentage marks also. So you'll come to know that whether the percentage marks is printed properly or not. So let's just quickly copy this from here and paste it to get the total marks. So here it goes, total marks of students being printed, percentage mark rather, total marks already we are printing. So percentage marks is percentage marks, percentage is PE marks, PR marks. Okay, so it takes, I think it is, yeah, it is done. I'll compile it again. Compiles with no syntax error, I believe, yeah. Then I go to the main screen. Let me clear that output screen first, and then I'll run it. So you'll observe here that the name and the marks of the first students is getting lost. And the total is also being printed wrong. Okay, so you see these are the details of the second student only, right, as you entered here. Now the reason for this is because we have one name variable and one percentage marks variable, and what we are trying to do, we are trying to take the details of 2 students. We are trying to use the input function 2 times. So that's why it's overwriting the content of the first variable and ultimately showing you the second details of the second student only, because the first details is getting overwritten. Now what is the solution to that? The solution to this is objects. So that's how and where the objects comes into play, right? Now first thing is, what is an object? If I define an object is a prototype of a class. So it's like a photocopy of a class, right? When I say photocopy, that means all the variables of the class, all the function of a class can be used by an object. Okay, let's do it practically, then it's easier for you to understand. So first thing is, how do I create an object? And before that, if you are using an object, if you are creating an object in main, you should use the keyword static. The static keywords makes that this particular function main will not going to have any other version. Now what do you mean by any other version? Just now you will come to understand when I'll explain you the objects. So now I create an object of the class. Now the syntax of creating an object of the class is the class name, the object name equals to new class name again. Okay. So in our case the class name is marks. So marks obj1 is the object name. You can have any name, but since these are the objects and there are object1, object2, object3, so we are creating by this name. Obj1 equals to new marks. Since I need to take details of 2 students, so I need to create 2 objects. Marks obj2 equals to new marks. So when I created an object obj1, now I'm putting a comment, the 2 forward slashes are used to put a comment. So when I said that object is a photocopy of a class, I meant is now those variable name and marks will have a photocopied version of it with object1. So you can say now it is obj1.name and obj1. What is the variable name for total marks? I think percentage marks. So percentage marks. Similarly, you will have a second version of it, a second photocopy of it with object2. So as the variable has its version with every object, the function will also have. So it will also have obj1.input along with it, obj1.display and so on. Okay. Now we have to use these objects to call the functions. Now we are not calling the function straight away without an object. So we'll call it obj1.input. So now whatever the input is taken, that goes into the object1 version of the variable. That means it will go to obj1.name and obj1.marks. Similarly, when I call the object function with second object, the input which I gave, whatever detail I gave, it will go to the second version of the variable or second photocopy obj2.name and obj2.percentage_marks. Then I will call the process function again with corresponding objects, and I will also call the display function again with the corresponding object names. Okay. Now let's see whether this solves a problem or not. Let's compile this code. So we compile it and we go to the main interface of the BlueJ and try to run the code now. Okay, now you see it will give the details correctly. Raman 45 and Rohan 87. That's what the detail. But still the total marks is wrong. Why the total marks is wrong? That I'll come to know. So now that problem is sorted out, that it was overwriting the details of the first person, right? So that's how the object is used in a class, and that is the purpose of an object. You create a class. When I created a class marks for one student, so it's not that I am going to take the detail of one student. I may have to take details of 20, 30, 40 students. So for that reason, we have to create that many objects. You can create an array of objects that you will learn later on, because now you will think that how if I create 20, 30, 40, 100 objects, that's again a tedious job. Yes, it is. But for that, you can create an array of objects that you will learn later on. So for now, you only understand that every object has its version of variables and function with it. Now we come to that issue of why that particular total is coming wrong. Now the total it says is 45 here and 87 here. All right, total marks is 45 and then 87. So basically it is again overwriting the total marks with the percentage marks and total mark. Let me see the display. Are we printing the same thing again? No, we are not. We are printing percentage marks and total marks. Okay. Now for that, what we'll do, we need to put, see, if we don't put a value to a particular variable, then a garbage value is taken inside it. Now that garbage value can be anything. All right. So just to initialize a variable with 0, you know that whenever you are summing it up, the variable should be initialized with 0, and when you are doing the product, the variable should be initialized with 1, the initial values. Then the output comes properly. So now I have to initialize my percentage marks, the total marks, which is to be calculated by 0. Now I cannot put a value like this. I can put a value like this, but that is not going to solve the problem. Let's see. Okay, that's again giving the same value of percentage marks and total marks for the total marks, whereas the total marks is a different entity. Okay. So what can we do for this? We need to create a special function which is called, so we need to have a special function called constructor. So now what is a constructor? I'll just define it quickly here. A constructor is a spatial function. Function means it's like a input, process and output, but it is spatial. Spatial in a way that it has the same name as of class. It does not have any return type. Okay, no void, no int, it does not return anything. It runs on its own, so you need not to call it. Okay, and it initializes the variables with some values. Now that values can be 0. So now this property, I need a constructor. Why? Because I want to initialize total marks with 0. So I have created a function constructor here. Now if you observe here, the first point of constructor, it is a spatial function. It has the same name as that of class. Yes, the class name is marks, and here the constructor, the function which is called constructor, has the name marks. It has the same name as of marks. That's done. It does not have any return type. It does not have any void in front of it. This function has void, and the process function also has void, and some of the process function might have double when it's returning double, which you have seen in the previous videos. But here nothing, no void, so it does not have any return type. It runs on its own. Okay, we are not going to call here. We are calling the functions input, process and output, right? Process and then output and display. But we are not going to call constructor. It runs on its own. And what is the job of the constructor? It initializes the variable with some values. So what I'm doing, I'm putting the total marks as 0. Okay. Other than that, so this is one of the step to solve that problem where the percentage marks were getting overwritten by the total marks. Another is, now since I told you that when you have an object, so every variable has a different version with every object. So when I had obj1, so I had name.obj1 and obj1.name and obj1.percentage marks. Same way I had obj2.name and obj2.percentage marks. But I do not need two versions of the total marks, because total marks is one only for both students, the totaling of both. Similarly, average marks is one for both. So I do not need two versions of it. So that means I do not need a different version of these two variables, total marks and average, because this is going to be only one value. So if I don't want any variable to have different photocopies of it, then I put a keyword static in front of it. Okay. So now these two variables, double, total marks and average, are going to be only one. Okay, because they don't have different version with different students. Total marks is one for both students or many students, and average is one for both students, double student. And now when I run this code, it should give me a proper answer. So here it goes. All right, so it gives proper total marks this time. 45 plus 98 is, I believe, 143. Yeah, it is printing, of course, 2 times because it is in the display, and display is called 2 times, so it's going to print 2 times. Now we can also calculate average accordingly. So my average is going to be in the code. In the process itself, I can calculate average, and the variable for average marks, I believe, is average only. Yeah, average. So average is going to be total marks upon 2. Okay. And now what I should do, see what problem I'm facing over here is my total marks is getting printed every time. Okay, total marks 143, total marks 143. But total marks should be only printed once. All right, and average should only be printed once. So either I can have another function to print this, or if you are comfortable with this output, or if the question is not asking you to create another function for printing the total marks and average, then it is fine. You can go with it. Let's go with it for the now, for the time being. So I'll print the average also. So average marks average. So here it goes, compiles. I'll clear the screen first, runs it again. Okay, so average is 77 and total marks is 154. 154 by 2 has to be 77, right? So this is the reason why we need an object, and this is how the object is being used. That is the work of the object, a constructor. Now you have been introduced to 2 new things here: the object, which you have created here and used by calling the function, and one more thing, rather 3 things, static keyword also, and a special function, constructor, which has same name as that of class, does not have any return type before it, no void, no double, and it only initializes the variables with 0 or with some values as per the question. And the keyword static, which makes the variable not to have multiple copy with different objects, because there may be some variables which we do not need to have multiple copies. So that's it. Now you come up with your doubts, mail me or message me, I'll get back to you. Bye-bye.
If you are new to the channel, please subscribe it. Also press the bell notification so that you get notification as soon as I release a new video. Share and like the video.